Hello, and welcome to a special edition of Dub Everything. This is Colin Langinus, feelthingsradio.com. Usually on this show, we feature experimental long-form dub recordings. And don't worry, we will return to that next month. But tonight, we're playing a special show. The subject of the show is Creston Spears, the lead singer from Harvey Milk and guitar player. Creston is basically my favorite musical person who is not, some mythological creature, someone sort of in my orbit. He's just a little older than me. I've followed him since we were both young men. It's so fun for an artist just to be unabashed about this, just to be like, this is my guy, to be emotional about an artist other than yourself. The other day in 2017, I conducted an interview with him over the phone. I'm going to play it for you and play a bunch of music for the whole 2-hour show. Harvey Milk is a special band to me. I was lucky enough to hear them early on when they only had one 7-inch out. And they blew my mind. Ryan Sweeney and Pat Mickey moved into my apartment in Boston, straight from Athens, Georgia, with a Harvey Milk tape and a split 7-inch. We listened to that tape into the ground, and it changed my life. Harvey Milk's trajectory was exactly what I wanted a band to do, and I got to see it in real time. Not like the Beatles or Hendrix, it was something from my era. So it was incredibly inspiring as a young artist to hear what you wanted to hear echoed back at you better than you could ever imagine, taking the music further. Completely inspiring. I saw every show they played in Boston. They played in my basement in 1997. My band USA is a Monster had a song named Creston. Harvey Milk seemingly had no rules. They were heavy as hell. They had amazing guitar solos, but they used keyboards. Sometimes they were terribly sad, sometimes terribly funny. They utilized beautiful consonants and pretty tore up dissonance. They did acoustic, noise, orchestra, etc. They did incredibly original things and would borrow from their heroes and mix them all together. High concept Southern sludge soul. I'm trying to get it all in and out because this is my shot, but they were the music for me, and I still listen to them to this day. So without further ado.
Jesus Christ.
Hey, Creston, it's so exciting to have you here, man.
Hey, thanks, Colin. I'm really excited too, man. It couldn't have come at a better time for me.
Well, I mean, this is a neat full circle for me, Creston. I am a longtime fan of yours for 20 years, and I just feel like it's time in my life I had to do this eventually, and why wait 20 years? Now's the time, due to the internet and whatnot.
It's a good time for me too, because I just quit my job and got a whole future plan around music, so it was very synchronous for me.
And not to jump right into it, Creston, but yeah, are you retired?
I retired early.
I love it.
I quit. I just couldn't take it anymore. I burnt out. I was a teacher for almost 20 years, and it just got too difficult.
Did you teach music?
I did for 9 years in the beginning in Atlanta, but then I switched to being a classroom teacher when I moved to Athens. And since then, I've taught third, second, and first grade.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, it's a tough job. It's like being on stage for 8 hours a day.
Yeah. 20 years. Okay, amazing. When you taught music, what was that all about?
It was elementary school kids, so we would sing songs and play instruments and talk about composers, just the elementary school music curriculum. My last year, they did get a giant keyboard system, which I thought was a big waste of money, but the kids loved it. It was a lot of fun. Some of the lessons were a lot of fun. But I think that's collecting dust now. I don't really know what they're doing in Atlanta for music these days.
I want to talk about your sort of classical music or your symphonic music. How did that come about? Are you were trained to be a teacher? What is your training before that in regards to music?
Well, when I was a kid, I was lucky enough to have a lot of people around me who were very musical. My aunt Claudine was a terrific acoustic guitar and country singer. My dad played guitar and trumpet, and he used to have some of his used car salesman friends come over and jam in our back room. Once I got a drum set for Christmas when I was 10, I think. But yeah, I was interested in music from an early age because my mom was she was a big Elvis fan, so there was always music filling the house, and I became a big Elvis fan. And then after that, I got into Kiss when I was about 12 years old in 1978, like everybody else did. And from then on, I was big. I was concentrated on guitar. It was my whole life. All I ever wanted to be was rock. First, I wanted to be a rock star, then I wanted to be the greatest guitar player, and blah blah blah. But I went from a progression of Kiss to Led Zeppelin and the Beatles to Rush and Yes to Al Di Meola and John McLaughlin to John Coltrane and Pharoah Sanders, and finally to classical music, which I think is the music I love the most. I mean, it wasn't until I went to school for classical music at Peabody Conservatory. I majored in percussion and education. And it's not until you get to stand in the middle of 80 fantastic musicians blasting out, some Mahler symphony, that you really know what it's like to rock. It was the greatest thing ever. That's what I wanted to do after that. But for a percussionist, it's a very, very boring road to hoe. I mean, there was a story going around when I was in school about those most recent New York Philharmonic percussion auditions, and it came down to two guys who they literally couldn't get to make a fuck up. I mean, they would give them a xylophone piece, nothing but 16th notes, and say, okay, play this up a fifth, and they would always do it perfectly. So it came down to one guy, I think his name was Chris Lamb, or Chris something. And, I wasn't into that. I was going to practice the same 27 percussion excerpts for the next 30 years just so I could land a good job. So I left music school and got an English degree and just bumped around for a few years.
Well, long story short is when I was in Boston living with Brian Sweeney moved into my house, and he brought the Harvey Milk tape, and I believe the split 7-inch with Hayride. Maybe that might have been all you had out. And
that was the only things we had recorded, probably, because that Bob Weston record was recorded, but no one had ever heard it. I'm sure Stevie gave him the tape. We were close to Brian.
Yeah, exactly. And we just listened to that tape into the ground every night.
Really?
Oh, we would just get tore up and dance in our apartment to that tape and a million other things, of course, but that was every night. So it became real mythic to us and to me. I'm not from Georgia, so I don't know you guys. So it became this sort of like, what is this, And it's maintained that for these 20 years, Creston, which is basically my thesis of this interview. What you guys have done to me all these years has continued. And it started for me with basically the song Smile, being in that. It was
that was the first. That and Blueberry Dookie were the first songs we ever recorded. We did it at Kelly Noonan's house in Athens, Georgia. That split, isn't that for the split 7-inch?
Yeah.
Yeah, those two songs were our first ventures into recording.
In reference to the Bob Weston tape, one song that would give me a whole nother dimension of your music, because again, we were following it chronologically, so I could be with you guys as your records continued to grow or your recordings continued to grow. I was like growing with you. So meaning the song FSTP, just to have the sort of music could be that big was really influential to me, and really profound. And I remember just staring into space, listening to that song over and over again.
obviously that song is meant to be real formalistic. I mean, the whole first half is nothing but on, off, with a few little messages in between. But that was done on purpose, to build up a tension. And boy, that really, I have to say, worked against us live. Because, of course, hecklers could, they have a minute to think about what they're going to say, and they know predictably when they'll be able to say it. And that happened a lot. I remember we were playing at the Hat Fest here, and it was a terrible show because we were playing on this concrete surface in front of the courthouse that had like a 3-degree pitch downward. So I couldn't keep my balance. I was falling over and knocking the microphone stand over the whole time. And we played that song. Can you imagine playing that song at a rock festival? And Jesus, that was stupid in the first place. Anyway, we played that song, and during one of the breaks that you can easily predict are coming, I hear, "You suck!" And we just all laughed and kept playing.
Everyone
That's
laughed.
The kind of thing. That's the kind of thing we live for, actually. But yeah, and when the tension's broken, it turns real tonal and beautiful. That's meant to be a symphonic piece, obviously. And it's just Stevie is to thank for all that. When I moved to Athens, and he opened my mind greatly by introducing me to music that I wasn't aware of, like the Melvins and the Jesus Wizard, and Blues Explosion, Flipper, and the whole My War, Black Flag record. I mean, I was just ignorant of that music. And when I heard it, it drastically changed the way I thought about making music with a rock band. I mean, it made it seem possible that I could make music I would only consider possible with an orchestra, with a rock band. And really, I guess that's what we were trying to do.
Yeah, as a kid, when I was listening to it, I just was thinking about movies. I was like, this should be in a movie. This is a movie.
Yeah, I don't know. Everyone has told me I should write music for movies, and I think I could easily. I mean, if you listen to a lot of the things on my Patreon account, they sound like soundtrack music. But I don't know if I could, because that's a skill, to match up the ambiance and the tempos and to what's happening on the screen. I never tried it. I'm going to try it once I get the infrastructure to do it. I'm going to buy a better computer, and I'm going to write a score for the Birds, which is, of course, music less, so I don't want to avoid copying. And I'll see how it goes.
A what? What is this
the
piece?
movie The Birds by Hitchcock.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it has no music in the soundtrack, so it's great for composers to practice on, you know what I mean? Because they got nothing to avoid copying and nothing to compare to. So I figure I'll do that and see how it goes. If it does go, I'll have something to send out to people if they say, "Do you write this music for